No one.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Gators Online Show. We're starting week 2 of the transfer portal window today on Friday, January 9th. There's one more week of this madness. And so far, Zach, the Gators already have 16 transfer commitments, more than halfway done. We don't have an exact number of how many guys they want, but we have a general idea. And 16 are on the board. We've got, and then as you always mention, they've got a 17th guy that they just picked up, a junior college transfer as well. So 16 four-year transfers, a 17th kid from JUCO. We got big Jaden Baugh news this week. He's back in the fold. We got big Jaden Woods news this week. He's back in the fold. All is going well so far for John Summerall, Zach.
Yeah, it is. It's been a great stretch for him and this staff to be able to retain their top players, the Fab Five, as Florida fans have liked to call them. And we'll get into it during this show, but I think they retained the most important 2 of those Fab Five, at least potentially in their eyes. And then to see what they've done in the transfer portal so far, they've gotten as many or more commits than most programs in the SEC. They've hit positions of need. They've hit guys ranked in the top, 200, some quality players, some guys that were coveted as well. And right now, I mean, there's a lot to like about the start so far for John Summerall.
Yeah, just before we came on the air, Florida did pick up another transfer commitment. Stanford offensive lineman Emeka Agorji. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He has started at both tackle and guard, played both guard and tackle at Stanford. He's a young guy. He's got multiple years. His PFF grades, Pro Football Focus, they grade players all across the country, really weren't great, to be honest with you. But Florida saw the upside in him. That they always used to say, remember the great Mo Collins who played for the Gators, the offensive lineman?
Yeah.
He was a buddy of mine before he passed away very early, unfortunately. We did camps together, and he would always say, Keith, give me the piece of clay. Give me the piece of clay. And that's what this young man from Stanford has. He has the piece of clay. And obviously offensive line coach Phil Troutwine, who came from Penn State and obviously played at Florida before that, he has certain guys in mind that he likes, and he identified this guy. That gives Florida 3 offensive line commits. One guy, Egan Boyer of Penn State, is a tackle. Another guy, TJ Shanahan, also Penn State, had some starts at Penn State, previously had some starts at Texas A&M. He's a guard, and this guy from Stanford, Emeka Agorji, he could play guard or tackle, so you're kind of getting the best of both worlds with him, Zach. And look, they had to identify that. They didn't have a lot. The 14 bodies back on the offensive line, but not a ton of experience. And if you looked at the tackle position, you start breaking it down player by player. And Caden Jones started last year and did admirably, but you lose your left tackle, Austin Barber, an all-conference player. Fletcher Westfall has been injured. He hadn't really played much. You had some other guys, some young guys. Bryce Lovett played some tackle last year, struggled early in the season, Zach, and I think he got better, correct me if I'm wrong, as the season went on. But a lot of uncertainty at that position. Jahari Medlock, a true freshman, I think they think has some potential, but they had to go out and identify, or they had to go out and get some players that could come in and compete at tackle. And I don't think they're done on the offensive line either, Zach. I think we can at least see at least one, maybe more than that. Harrison Moore, I believe is his name, is the center from Georgia Tech. He's certainly somebody to watch, and I wouldn't be surprised if he popped in the next few days. So doing some work on the offensive line. And like you said, Zach, filling needs across the board, really. Now, look, the interesting thing is people are like, where are the big names? Where are the big names? And I get it. But a lot of times guys have big names because they were big name recruits, not because they had big time production in college.
I got to say this. If you're ranked in the top 100, top 150, top 200, you're a big name. There's over 3,000 kids in the portal. So if one of these recruiting services think you're the 115th or 130th or 160th recruit, like, that's pretty good. Big names, you're talking about guys in the top 10 that are easily going for over $1 million. In some of these cases, multi-million-dollar deals that would be required to sign them. And Florida's not really in a place from a roster standpoint to do that. They've obviously spent over $1 million to sign some players. We've seen it, and we're going to talk about it here on the show. But when you really look at their portal needs, I mean, you're talking about offensive tackle, that's probably the only one that they had where it is expensive. And it's probably more expensive to go pay for a left tackle than a right tackle. Not probably, it is. So we still have to see what the Gators do there in terms of who they decide to play on which side and who could potentially be the starter. They might already have their left tackle on the roster. So, I mean, if they didn't feel like there was somebody that was worth paying that much money for at a left tackle spot, or they liked some of their other options, then that's the decision that they're going to make from a roster standpoint. But I think that they've gotten some big names. I think the running back that they landed from Cincinnati was
Evan Pryor. Yep.
Obviously Aaron Philo was a huge get. You look at DJ Coleman, who was their first commit off the board. He's ranked very highly in the On3 industry transfer portal rankings. And there's a few of those guys on that list. I mean, you mentioned it, Keith. They're up to 16 guys now, and several of them are ranked, whether it's top 200, top 300. And the biggest thing is that they're hitting needs, offensive line obviously being one of them, quarterback, running back. They needed to get some defensive linemen. They've certainly done that, getting that Jacksonville State defensive lineman. He's ranked 149th nationally in the industry ranking. So, you go through the list. There's a lot of quality gets here. Cam Dooley from Kentucky as well. I mean, all these guys that I'm listing are potential starters or guys that are going to be heavily involved in their rotation.
Yeah, I'm getting back to the offensive line. So we know TJ Shanahan at Penn State. He's got some college starts.
Him too.
Yeah, but Egan Boyer to me is the interesting one because at Penn State he was there 2 years. Now I remember covering his recruitment a couple of years ago, Zach, and he was tall, like 6'8", but 260. Right?
Yeah.
Well, now he's like 6'7", 6'8". Didn't shrink. He's 6'7", 6'8", but he's about 320, 325. So he now looks like an offensive lineman's supposed to look. He'll be entering year 3. So he's only got one career start. So people may be thinking, all right, well, why? How could this guy be a guy that's a guy? Well, again, look who his offensive line coach was at Penn State. It's Phil Trautwein, who's now at UF, as we said. And offensive line, especially offensive tackle, these are developmental positions. Usually you are not starting right away your first couple of years on the offensive line unless you are you are an all-time stud like Jason Odom was at the University of Florida, and Reggie Green started the same year as him as the two bookend tackles. Or the second scenario is you suck on the offensive line and they ain't got anybody else to put there. And by the way, that was also the case with Jason Odom and Reggie Green. They just happened to be two Gator greats in that back in the early 90s, but Florida didn't have anybody else. The guys they put out of tackle couldn't cut it. So they had to put those true freshmen in by need. So this is a guy that's gone through the system, worked with Phil Trautwein for a couple of years. He understands what he wants. Trautwein understands what he can do, what his limitations may be. And they identified him. And listen, I talked to Jaden Baugh's dad, and we'll get into this a lot later in the show. But over the past few weeks, we were talking about who they were getting and who they were targeting. And I mentioned Egan Boyer, and he goes, that's the one. That's the one. So that tells me that, one, they were following that stuff, obviously. But two, that Florida was telling him, hey, this guy may not have a lot of starts, but if Florida can get Egan Boyer, this guy could be a guy that's going to be helping your son get 1,500 yards. You know what I mean? So I think that's a guy Florida was really excited about. You look at the rankings, and he's only the number 47 offensive tackle in the transfer portal rankings. He's number 637 overall, and that's fine. That's not a misevaluation. He just hadn't started. He started one game at Penn State, Zach. That was his last game at Penn State, the bowl game where they, despite having a coaching change and all these guys leaving, they beat Clemson pretty good. So promising there. So again, you got the big name, like the guys you saw, like DJ Coleman that have done things in college. Cam Dooley, TJ Shanahan, Evan Pryor, Patrick Durkin, the kicker from Tulane. But then you got a guy like Boyer. You're thinking, well, he's only been a backup. I don't know much about this guy, but the coaching staff apparently loves this guy. So it looks. I mean, look, we never know till you start playing games, right? But it looks like they're building a pretty good foundation, along with Zach, what they got coming back. Zach, do you want to? When do you want to do our first ad read? You tell me. What do you think? What do you think here?
Yeah, let's wrap up this topic and then we can get to it. Because I do want to mention, and we talked about this before we started, just maybe which guy or guys that we like the most so far that Florida has landed to this point in the transfer portal. We've already rattled off some of the names. One that really jumps out to me is the Jacksonville State defensive lineman, Emmanuel. I don't even want to try. Emmanuel O is what I'll just go with. Emmanuel O. He was there was a market for him. Let's put it like that. And obviously, if you're going to visit Texas A&M, you've got quite a suitor in terms of the NIL market. So Florida had some competition for him. They got him on campus. Were able to, I think, show him and impress him enough to where when he went to Texas A&M, from my understanding, he decided to come to Florida as soon as that visit to the Aggies was over. They clearly had impressed him more in Gainesville than they did in College Station. And I think that given the need that they have on the defensive line, he was a big addition to me, like a big addition. I really like DJ Coleman as well. I think that he's a guy that can come in and contribute right away in that secondary. And probably the guy that's going to also fall right in line with that is Cam Dooley, just because he's coming over from that Brad White, Chris Collins coach defense. He's going to know the system. He's going to have an opportunity to start at free safety. I know a lot of Florida fans have just basically said, hey, we swapped safeties with Kentucky, and they think that they got the better of those trades. We'll see. But I definitely like the fact for the Gators that they get a guy in Dooley that knows the scheme, has been coached by the coordinator, by the secondary coach, and that's going to, I think, make it a seamless transition for him transferring in.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you on that. I mean, obviously, I like Aaron Philo. Now,
well, I was going to let you go with him. I want both of us to say, but I do like Aaron Philo too.
But I think both of us, Zach, and thank you for that. I think both of us do like Tramel Jones.
That too.
And who's returning. And both of us are like the promise of true freshman Will Griffin. But I think it's going to come down to Philo or Tramel Jones, who would be the starter next year. Now, Florida probably is still looking to add a second transfer portal quarterback. But once you get a guy that's a pretty good name, it gets a little harder to get a second guy in. All right. So maybe it would be a second guy that's ready to compete for the starting job. Let's put it that way. So, but Aaron Philo, again,
my guy's already he's already named QB1. And by the way, it's settled.
Yeah. And we're going to get to a lot of these questions, and Zach's got to go. You got to go to basketball a little bit later, right?
I do. Yes.
If we get to the point where we didn't get to any of the questions and Zach's got to run, Zach, I can stay on and take some of these questions. But yeah, so Aaron Philo's 2-year backup at Georgia Tech. So you say, okay, backup again, another backup. We had somebody on the message board this morning, Zach, say, he hadn't started. He's not a proven commodity. Well, everybody's got to make their first starts. I mean, sometimes you got to do it.
Yeah.
But, he worked with, and I'm not trying to be a smart ass here, but he worked with Florida's new offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner, for both seasons at Georgia Tech. Faulkner is John Summerall's number one offensive coordinator target. And Philo is Faulkner's number one quarterback target. So, that cohesiveness there should be significant. They say the kid's got a lot of potential. Georgia's all-time leading passer in high school. I believe he passed Trevor Lawrence's records. Now, Lawrence played, I believe, a higher level of competition, but that's still saying something. Here's what I like about him. He threw for almost 1,000 yards in 2 seasons as a backup at Georgia Tech. And by the way, Zach, he was backing up Haynes King, who finished 10th in the voting for the Heisman Trophy this year. So what I understand was Georgia Tech paid a lot of money to keep Philo from leaving last year. Like they valued him as a backup, like starter 1A. So he apparently is legit. But here's what I really, really impressed by. I love guys, Zach, that won state titles at quarterback in high school. And I'll tell you why. Because when you go back through the history of Florida Gators quarterbacks, and this may sound obvious, so you dummy, no kidding, but the guys that won big at Florida also won in high school. Now, sometimes if you're Jeff Driscoll, let's say, you didn't have the supporting cast. Doug Johnson didn't have the supporting cast in high school. But guess who did? Kerwin Bell, state champ. Shane Matthews, state champ. Danny Werfel, state champ. Rex Grossman, state champ. Chris Leak, state champ. Tim Tebow, state champ. It's not a coincidence. Winners win. And so that's what I really like. He's got the winning DNA. He won 2 state titles as a starter in high school and a 3rd as a backup as a 9th grader. So this is a guy that's going to come in with a high expectation. At Georgia Tech, he was on a 7-6 team, and then the team that won 9 regular season games this year. He's used to winning. He's going to be demanding of guys around him. And so I like that pickup. Egan Boyer, I really like, because I've heard so many good things from people on the ground in State College, Pennsylvania, about this guy's ceiling, okay, what this guy can be. So I think he'll probably be a guy that's starting sometime in the near future for the Florida Gators at tackle. And then a guy you mentioned, DJ Coleman at Baylor, safety. He's got 1 season left, 89 career tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 11 pass breakups. And a lot of that came last year. And I believe, if I'm right here, Zach, I think he's a guy that can play boundary safety or nickel. So that versatility. So he's not just an outstanding player that's going to be playing on Sunday.
Yep.
He's giving you versatility in the secondary. And man, look at all the injuries Florida had last year. And so you say,
think about Triquez Bridges, all the positions he played for the Gators.
So you think about this. You lost Aaron Gates and Sharif Denson, who've signed with other teams. So this guy's coming in to play boundary safety, but he also, so he can slide down and play nickel. And, they're trying to sign like 5 or 6 defensive backs in the portal. I think this guy's not only a kick-ass dude, he's a guy that, again, just being able to play so many spots is invaluable, really.
It is. And they needed, as you know, and we've reported on, they had to get defensive backs given all the losses that they had. And so to be able to get him, to be able to get Cam Dooley at this point, I think I really like their additions at defensive back, and they're not done yet. I mean, we have updated the scholarship chart for those that want to go see it at Gators Online. You get a nice full breakdown. It's been updated, although did they just get another commit, Keith?
Yeah, another one just while we've been –
I don't know. I don't want to speak too soon. I saw somebody no, I don't. I think that's maybe one of our writers getting a story ready. I don't want to spill any beans on here.
Yeah. All right. So let me. But before we move, go ahead. Well, I wanted to answer one question. Is Florida kicking the tires with Jamie French? That's the former 5-star receiver from Jacksonville. He's now, was at Texas. A lot of guys leaving Texas, and he was teammates with Tramel Jones and Drake Stubbs, Florida safety at Jacksonville Mandarin. Is Florida kicking the tires? We actually haven't heard yet. I wouldn't be surprised. They still need a few receivers, and they need some guys, some high ceiling guys. So when we find out, we will let you know. I would not be surprised. Obviously, Tramel Jones and Drake Stubbs. Tramel Jones was texting me yesterday. He's like, I want this guy. So we'll see. This is a thing that there's still a week left in the portal. Again, 16 commitments already, Zach, and there's still a week to go. So now Florida can be having so many guys on board, including 2 receivers. Florida can really be selective now. And you say, okay, people look, Zach, at those first 2 receiver signings, Bailey Stockton out of Georgia Tech, one of Aaron Fowler's best friends, and then Micah Mays of Wake Forest. Their stats don't blow you away. They're just solid production guys. But here's what I'm looking at, value. So a fan may say, why are we being so cheap? And I say, they're getting value. They probably didn't have to pay much for those 2 guys, which means, guess what? Now, I'm sorry, I'm reading text from you. Now they got money left.
Yeah.
100%. You know what I mean? Now they got money because you just don't have unlimited money. People thought, Zach, a week ago, what were we hearing? Oh, we can't compete with Texas. They just got oil money, unlimited money. Florida's beating Texas for dudes. Now Texas fans,
we're getting to that.
Yeah, now Texas fans are complaining that they don't have money. What this whole thing has taught me and should teach everybody is nobody, maybe Texas Tech, but nobody has just unlimited money. You're all working within some boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And so Florida getting
you can't
value
spend recklessly.
No. Florida's getting Micah Mays and Bailey Stockton a receiver probably means from the money pool at receiver. Now they have money to go continue to fight for a guy, big name guys that probably cost a lot, quite frankly. Anyway, I cut you off there, Zach. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I'm just going to break down these remaining needs, and I do want to talk about Jaden Woods and Jaden Baugh. Looking at this, Keith was just talking about the receivers and D-line as well. They're probably not done at receiver. Actually, I know they're not done at receiver. You look at the latest scholarship chart that we've got up at Gators Online. Again, we're not tracking transfers because we don't know how many we're not tracking former walk-ons because we don't know how many scholarship transfers that the Gators will end up with. There is going to be a 105 roster limit. We know that. They're not going to be able to go 105, but they're not going to have 105 scholarship level transfer portal players / recruits. Like, you're still going to have around 20 walk-on level players on the team. So they're already less than 10 away from 85. So there's not a lot of spots left. I don't want to give all the specifics. I want to encourage everybody to go check it out at Gators Online. We got it all broken down on this chart, but you can really see what they've added, how much they've improved the roster in just 1 week, and what they have left. They're in a good spot at quarterback. Maybe they could add another one, but they've got 4 that they'll have on the roster. Some teams like to carry 5, but Florida can get away with 4. They've got 5 scholarship running backs now, only 8 scholarship receivers. So to Keith's point and to that question, I don't think they're done at wide receiver yet. Keith also mentioned the Georgia Tech transfer offensive lineman could be added to what's already a stacked position group up front. I mean, the Gators got good numbers now along the offensive line, especially after the transfers that they've added. And you look at the rest of the other side of the ball on defense, you could, maybe stand to add a linebacker, but it's not a necessity because of all the guys that you re-signed. You could stand another edge and another defensive lineman. And then again, still to add in the secondary, we think we'll see some more guys there. So, but it's not like they need to land, Keith, still 12 more guys and get that 105 number out of your head in terms of they're going to fill that with a bunch of transfers from the portal. No, they're going to re-sign several walk-ons that are still going to be part of this team.
Yeah, and they're not going to have to scramble this last week.
No.
Don't get me wrong. They're still at a frenetic pace, but all that. But they've a lot of the hay's in the barn, as they say. One position, if you mentioned this, Zach, I'm sorry, I was getting bombarded with text messages here that we haven't really talked about. It's tight end. And they've got one.
Yeah, they're not done there.
No, and I think they may add maybe even 2 more. They want some bodies there. Zach, looking at this list of guys that have committed and signed on the transfer list, we went over the guys we really like. Give me one guy that you think and I'll do the same, nobody's really talking about, and you're like, this is a pretty big pickup here. This is pretty significant. Anybody
I think the running back, Evan Pryor, I think that's a big deal because they lost 4 scholarship running backs. And Duke Clark showed a lot of flashes and could easily be the number 2. For all we know, Byron Lewis could come out of nowhere. But you needed to get, I think, some more guys with experience at that spot, given the losses that you had to the portal, especially guys like Jacoby Jackson and Trayon Webb, both of whom were going to come back with some experience. So they needed to go get somebody to kind of be, a nice compliment to Jaden Baugh, and to be able to get Evan Pryor, a guy that's played at Ohio State and was recruited by the Buckeyes, and then has put up great numbers in production at Cincinnati. I think that was a great get, which was right on the heels, which we'll get into here momentarily, right on the heels of Jaden Baugh coming back. So it was kind of nice back-to-back news there for the Gators at the running back spot.
Yeah, I agree. And so I will go with the kicker, Patrick Durkin from Tulane, a young guy, played 2 seasons there, redshirted his first year, but actually did kick some. It's funny because his ranking, people have questioned, it says number 28 place kicker. Well, that's in the composite, which like 24/7 hasn't ranked him yet. He is on threes, number 1 place kicker in the transfer portal. So for on threes, number 1, 25 of 28 on field goals last year, which is good as it is. That's like 90%. But what makes that even better, Zach, is I believe 2 of the 3 misses all year were 50 plus. And I think he made a handful of 50 plus too. So, you're losing Trey Smack. Trey Smack, he struggled in that first game last year and then was great the rest. The guy's a great kicker. Okay. That's a big loss. That's you just take guys like that for granted. You really do, until you have a guy that sucks. Okay. Then it's like, we sure could have used Trey Smack. Right. So Patrick Durkin, big pickup. They also got the punter from Tulane. And so special teams, man, hidden yardage, man. These SEC games, they're starting to look like NFL games. Not starting.
You had to replace all your specialists.
That's right. Well, I don't know whether that was by choice. They had guys, they all went in the portal. I don't know whether they went in the portal on their own or were gently pushed out. But yeah, they had to replace the long snapper, punter, kicker. They did it. They've got experience at all three spots, and guys that not just experience. The punter averaged, 46 yards a punt last year, 46.5 yards a punt. Now, kicking in the SEC, you're going from kicking in 30,000 seat stadiums to kicking in 100,000 seat stadiums, all that stuff. But these are young guys that are on the way up. So I like what they did there. So Zach is informing me, by the way, that I cannot stay on late and answer questions. So we're going to pop a few up as we go along today, and we'll get into the
and then we'll get this ad read in here real quick, and then we'll talk Jaden and Jayden, which was a big storyline for the Gators in this transfer portal cycle. Also, a big storyline this season has been the Game Time app. It's helped you guys. It's helped me. It's helped my family and friends all season long. We're obviously getting down to the nitty-gritty for folks that, if you're listening to this live and can get to that college football playoff game tonight, I bet you that you could find some seats on the Game Time app. And if you want to get to the national championship in Miami, Game Time will be the way to go. Every single time this college football season, I've needed to go find tickets. Family and friends have needed to go find tickets. I've directed them to the Game Time app. We've been able to get tickets that we wanted in the section that we wanted at the price we wanted. And the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. Incredibly easy to use. And the Game Time guarantee means you trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. There is no surprise fees at checkout, and you can get college football tickets as low as $25. So take the guesswork out of buying them with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code ON3, that's ON3, for $20 off.
All right, so Zach doesn't have all day. He's got to get over to, I believe, basketball and hang out with Todd Golden and the gang for a little bit. But before we get out of here, let's talk about the two big retentions this week. I mean, massive. Jaden Baugh, 1,170 yards last season. Texas. He never entered the portal, by the way. But we know Texas. Look, don't ask me how all this and why.
Came as close as you could come to entering the portal.
Yes, and if he entered the portal, his father's confirmed. Yes, Texas absolutely would have been a threat. Jabbar Jaluk, former running backs coach at Florida, is now at Texas. And Texas, boy, a lot of their fans were really counting that one as putting that one in the win column, and it didn't happen. So Florida retained Jaden Baugh, who the one and only player that John Summerall mentioned from the current team at his introductory press conference, I believe, right, Zach? Yeah. And then later in the week, not much later, but they got the good news that Jaden Woods, who the freshman edge, all SEC freshman edge, would be returning. And man, Zach, when he entered the portal, you're thinking, oh boy, that's not good. Texas was coming in hot there. And then you hear, hey, guess what? Oregon's involved too. Well, we know they got a lot of money. So it was a little dicey, but you got some details. Which one do you want to talk about first, Zach?
Well, let's talk the most recent and probably the most concerning one, because this guy actually entered the portal and he actually made his way to campus. And I'll die on the hill that Jaden Woods should count for Florida's transfer portal ranking. I mean, he entered, right? I mean, he took the trip to Texas. He was being coveted, and because of the new coaching staff, I think it's fair to say that that was as much of an acquisition as any other. But I mean, hey, he was number 13 in the industry transfer portal rankings from On3. So this was a very, very big deal for the Gators. It was a big deal to lose him, and it was an even bigger deal to get him back. And I know that this was a player that they prioritized. He was one of the Fab Five, as Florida fans affectionately like to call this group, which, if you don't know, is Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, Jaden Baugh, Jaden Woods, and Miles Graham. And I know that Texas wanted at least 4 of those guys. I don't know about Miles Graham. They might have. I just don't have any sourcing on that. But like, Texas was coming for Florida's best players. Florida beat Texas this season, so I guess that's not too surprising. But like, I mean, we'll get into Baugh and what that dynamic was like for the Longhorns, but for Jaden Woods, like he had obviously Steve Sarkisian leading that charge, but it was really Will Muschamp. Like Will Muschamp was, the coach that he was going to play for, the scheme that he was going to be in, and I think all Florida fans know how good of a recruiter Muschamp is, and what he can do to kind of sell a player on what he can do from a development standpoint on the defensive side of the ball. You can say what you want about him as a head coach. The dude knows defense. So for Jaden Woods to get courted by Texas and that money and Will Muschamp, and to go out to Austin and to take a visit and to go through all those steps of entering the portal and going through the blowback of leaving the team, even if it was just to weigh your options, this is what he said, to go all the way out and go through all that and then to still not commit to Texas and then to meet with John Summerall, Brad White, and Bam Hardman in Kansas. I think that says a lot for the Gators to be able to pull out that recruitment, because going head-to-head with Sarkisian and Muschamp for a defensive player that Texas wants and has got the money to spend for is not easy. And this new staff and Florida did it. And I think it's kudos to them for being able to keep the Longhorns away. And at the end of the day, like when all things had been considered and he got to hear from everybody and sit down with everybody face-to-face, Jaden Woods chose to play for the Gators over the Longhorns. And he chose to play for John Summerall and Brad White over Steve Sarkisian and Will Muschamp. And that's a big deal. And that's as big as a recruitment as you're going to land anywhere out of the high school ranks, out of the transfer portal, retaining guys. Like, this is a big deal that they were able to pull this off. And that was on the heels of stiff-arming Texas from also trying to take Jaden Baugh. But we'll get into that, and I would love to hear Keith's perspective. But I know you agree with me, knowing that it looked like Jaden could have easily been on his way out, especially once he made his way to Austin, and the Gators were able to keep that from happening.
Just speculating here, but based on talking to some people that cover Texas, we say Texas, getting back to this, we think Texas has this unlimited amount of money. And let's suppose they do. But Colin Simmons, they already have on the roster. Maybe the premier edge rusher, certainly one of the handful of premier edge rushers in college football. So no matter how badly you wanted Jaden Woods and how much you could theoretically afford to pay Jaden Woods, you can't pay him more than you're paying Colin Simmons.
No.
He's your guy. He's your star.
And you also don't have a need for him.
Well,
because of that.
So I think Texas was in a little bit of a jam. Like, hey, we really want this guy, but how much can we pay him where we don't piss off the guy that's our star already, that's already making the plays? Yeah. Jaden Woods is a solid young player. He's still somewhat of a projection. I mean, he just had 2.5 sacks. I mean, he played a lot as a freshman.
3.5, but yeah.
3.5 sacks, sorry. But it's still a projection, right? But Colin Simmons is there. And so that could have been an issue for Texas, I think. And I think that played into Florida's advantage, quite frankly. But yeah, Zach, how do you think Florida got that done? Like, okay, forget about money and all that. Florida went and saw him, and I know you know about that meeting and all that stuff. How do you think Florida put the nail in the coffin on that with Jaden Woods? What do you think did it?
I think really being able to hear from John Summerall, Brad White, and Bam Harmon in that setting, face to face, really having a real conversation, not just about football, but about everything. But yeah, specifically about scheme and defense and how am I going to be used? Like, how do you guys see me in your scheme? What's that going to look like for me as a sophomore, as a junior? And I think being able to hear that development plan that they had, obviously he'd gotten that from Texas and Muschamp, and on that official visit, they probably showed him everything that he was going to do for the Longhorns. So being able to see that from the Florida side of things, and here, yeah, when Brad White was at Kentucky, he coached and developed Josh Allen into an crazy breakout year in 2018, SEC Defensive Player of the Year, consensus first-team All-American, set the school sack record, was a first-round pick. Like, they've coached some dudes too now, and I think that was important for Jaden Woods to hear, understand, get knowledge of, and have that be able to see how that could impact him as a player. And obviously, it won him over. and sealed the deal, because the next day he called Texas and said, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
And committed to Florida. And that didn't officially come out until late. I guess it was Wednesday. But he knew Wednesday morning, and he probably knew Tuesday night that he was staying a Gator. And that's a credit to whatever they said in that living room, man. It must have been some real deal stuff, because again, that trumped a whole official visit to Texas. Like days in Austin.
One quick comment I want to get to, Zach, and feel free to chime in here and laugh. Rick obviously is talking about me because I'm the idiot here. Why do you keep saying can't you find a more intelligent segue term? Rick, I'm not as intelligent and eloquent as you, obviously. So pardon my vocal tics. Anyway, Zach, hey, what is wrong with people? Just be friendly. Is it that hard to be friendly, Zach? All right. Jaden Baugh next. Okay. Big. I mean, so Jaden Baugh, like, all the chatter is about him going into the portal, likely going into the portal. Texas was going to come in hot with Jabbar Jalouk, and we heard the term Arch Manning, and by the way, Ohio State also sniffed around, and Georgia, Auburn. I'm telling you, there were people out there that were watching this. If he would have gone in the portal, it wouldn't have just been Texas. I was fielding calls. Who am I? But I'm getting calls from colleges. What are you hearing? And so this would have been significant had he gone in the portal, but he did not. And so, as his father and I were talking, we were discussing the money. And he's like, Keith, it is not about the money. And I go, look, I know it's not about the money, because you could have gotten the same amount or more anywhere else. But when you say it's not about the money, people just assume it's about the money. But what we know, Zach, is Jaden Baugh, whatever the final number was, and we've heard numbers 1-2, 1-3, whatever the number was, like I said, he could have gotten that or more elsewhere. So theoretically, if you look at it that way, if all things are equal, then it isn't about the money, so to speak. But what it was about, according to Jaden's father, and Jaden's you know him very well, Zach. He's an introvert. He's not out there doing interviews. He doesn't want to really get involved in all this stuff, right? There was one of the there. There's another one. He wanted to be comfortable with his coaches. So he had to get to know Summerall. He had to get to know Chris Foster, the running backs coach. As they talked, Zach, they got more comfortable with each other. So that was a good pitch there. He wanted to see what the offensive line was going to look like. He liked what they were doing there. But also it was about legacy with Jaden Baugh. And this is this is from his father, not from him, but they're very close. And I've known his father since Jaden was in high school. It was about legacy. His father told me several months ago that Jaden wanted to be mentioned with Emmett. He wanted his number up there with Emmett. He wants to accomplish team goals, but he wants to accomplish those while accomplishing personal goals too. And one of Jaden's goals is to be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. And we think, maybe that's ridiculous. Kid from Notre Dame had 1,300-something yards last year and ended up in New York. He only had 200 more yards than Jaden, playing for a 4-win team. So these are things that were, by the way, Zach, discussed with the Florida coaching staff. They told these guys, he's got goals. He wants to be mentioned among the all-time Florida greats. He wants to be in New York. Are you guys the staff that can help Jaden obtain that? And they felt comfortable with that. So only 5 running backs in Florida history have ever gotten to 3,000 yards. If Jaden has the same numbers next year that he had this year, he'll hit 3,000. If he can get around 1,400, Zach, he can pass Neil Anderson and be right next to Emmett. It would be Eric Rhett, Emmett, Jaden. Jaden would love that. Jaden would love to see his name next to him. Things that we don't think matter to people. But it was about legacy. It was about finishing what he started. And the final thing, he said, hey, Dad said, you know what? It was about loyalty. It was about loyalty. They've been good to my son, and he wants to be good to them. So it just seemed like it worked out. But he did. Look, they
definitely considered it.
There was a new staff. All the guys that were, as fans, as media people, you and I are University of Florida graduates. Sometimes we think, well, why would a guy leave? Well, they're different, man. He doesn't, he's got all these things being thrown at him, new staff, money, whatever, national championship. And, but I think he felt like at Florida, he could achieve the personal goals and the team goals. And so, it worked out great, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And just digging into it, I know that Jaden Baugh was he's kind of in the same category as Jaden Woods, because both of those guys, yes, they're really talented. Yes, they've and obviously Woods is in a different category than Baugh. Like, Woods is much more potential and projection. Baugh has proven it, and he has the production to back it. But where those guys are in the same boat, and what makes them unique, and what made them very coveted by John Summerall and Keith, you probably know where I'm going, but these were the two strongest dudes in the weight room. When they put out their freaks, Bruce Feldman's freaks list, Jaden Baugh and Jaden Woods were on that list, and Jaden Woods was on that list as a freshman. So
Wow.
It matters to John Summerall to have strong guys in the weight room that set the tone. And I think that impressed him as much as everything else that they have, skill set, production, potential. Like, he loves that those are weight room guys that are going to set the tone this offseason for his new program. And that's why he wanted those two back as much as anything else. And I think for Florida to be able to get that, to kind of start off this new Summerall era in the weight room, it's they'll be throwing them weights around before we know it, Keith. Only a couple weeks left before they start off season workouts.
Some of my favorite all-time Gators were some of the strongest guys. Remember Donnie Young, starting offensive lineman on the 1996 national team? Guy could bench like 550 pounds. Love those guys. One other point about Jaden Baugh, and then Zach's got to get running. Remember to go to GatorsOnline.com for all the intel.
And I'm going to do one more ad read too.
Oh, one more ad read. Well, real quick, Jaden Baugh, he wants to get up there with Emmett. He's got to get over 1,300 yards. He's got to get close to 1,400. Only two running backs in school history have ever gotten over 1,300, Zach. Emmett did it twice. The other, a lot of fans don't know or remember, Jimmy DuBose, 1975, first 1,000-yard rusher in Gator history, went over 1,300 and was a top 10 Heisman finalist. So, Zach, final ad read?
Yeah, final ad read. We'll give a quick shout-out to Modelo, and then I do want to give a shout-out to this Florida men's basketball team. But obviously, as we enjoyed a great college football playoff game last night, I'm sure Florida fans weren't happy with that end result. I know I wasn't. I wanted to see Ole Miss advance. But nonetheless, one way to make you feel better is a Modelo, because college football season is Modelo season. If you're listening to this right now, it means it's time for a reward. Reward your full-time fandom with an ice-cold Modelo. Modelo is the official beer sponsor of the college football playoff, which will be back in action tonight, Oregon versus Indiana. So make sure that you find a Modelo to enjoy that game with. And Gator Nation, you deserve a Modelo.
All right. And Zach, you deserve to be let off the hook. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button and the subscribe button down below. Oh, you want to go into hoops first?
Yeah. I just want to mention this. No. Well, I am going to go to Golden as soon as we get out of this, but I do want to give Florida Hoops a shout out, because obviously they got a big win the other night against Georgia, back in action against Tennessee on Saturday. And this is going to be an important game for the Gators, another top 25 opponent. One of the teams that beat them last year, one of the few teams that beat them last year. And this is an opportunity, if you can get back-to-back wins in the O-Dome against a quality opponent, that's going to give, I think, the Gators the momentum and the confidence that they need after obviously an up-and-down non-conference slate and a tough loss to Missouri to start things out in SEC play. So like where this team is at, obviously the way that they played in the second half against Georgia was very impressive. Shut them down defensively. Georgia came into that game as the nation's highest scoring team. Florida held them to a season low 77 points. Thomas Houck was Thomas Houck. Alex Condon also went for 21. And they got some guys to hit from three as well. So they're going to need more of that moving forward. They're going to need some more bench. Still need that backcourt to come together at the same time in the same game. I think they're waiting on that, Keith. That's the next step for this team.
Yeah. All right. That it? Anything else you want to add? Okay, sorry about
that.
Zach's texting me. I got to go. I'm like, okay. All right. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button and the subscribe button down below. Make sure you leave a comment about my vocal tics. I love them. Nothing I enjoy more than hearing about all my faults. And look, man, any word on Nashon Montgomery? Nothing yet.
Yeah.
Nothing yet.
Doesn't seem like he's in the fold to come back to Florida, though.
Yeah, it was looking good, then it wasn't looking good, and then it was looking good, and who knows? But we'll continue to work on all this stuff. Remember, go to GatorsOnline.com. Zach, myself, Corey Bender, and Blake Alderman. Those two have really been doing all the yeoman's work with the transfer portal. So make sure you go follow. Yeah, make sure you go follow their work. And look, we think more commitments are coming. Transfer commitments are coming for the Florida Gators in the next 24, 48 hours. So again, go to GatorsOnline.com. We appreciate.
And if you're not subscribed, get in the door right now. We got a deal going. You can get half off, man. A bunch of people have taken advantage and they're reaping the benefits.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to thank everybody because we've been one of the top 3 sites in our entire On3 network in new subscriptions the last several months. Obviously, there's a coaching change, but that's because of you all supporting our work. And even the people that don't like us, you still come here, you still read this. So we appreciate all of you, even you guys. So that'll do it for Zach Albaverdi. I'm Keith Niebuhr. This was the Gators Online Show. We'll see you again soon. Everybody have a safe weekend. And I'm looking forward to that basketball game myself.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. Another one in the O-Dome. We'll be back next week to see how that went and where things are tracking in the transfer portal. We'll see you guys then. Take care.
Take care.